Hey, ghosts and ghouls and bronies of all ages. Warlock Boo here. And I got a little joke for you. It's knock knock. Who's there? Knocking at your door. Knocking at your door who? I don't know because I'm too afraid to answer because it could be here to get me. That's funny because it could be here to get you and it could kill you. And you guys aren't laughing at my joke, are you? You all suck. I'm done for the day. I'm not telling a story. Alright, you convinced me because I like to hear myself talk. I'll tell the story. This joke was a segue into it anyways. What? Have you ever heard a knocking or a scratching or a rasping noise, but there's never anything at the door or window? Well, our next protagonist has, and it's all about that. This is What Lurks Outside the Door by Shadow Walking 18. Enjoy. It had all started with those three little noises. Sunny Glade, a young mare out on her own now, had not taken the noises much more than some tapping in the night on her front door. It was probably just some critter that was trying to get in. So she had left bowls of food and water out for whatever the little creature was. It didn't work. Every night, she would once again hear the tapping. She was a light sleeper and her ear depths sharp on picking up sounds, a skill she had gained in a career of musician. She could literally hear a pin drop. The next night, she decided to confront whatever it was, and as soon as she heard the tapping, she grabbed up the flashlight and stormed down and threw open the doors. Nobody was out there, and no matter how hard she looked, she didn't see any trace of any pony in the vicinity. Even the bones she had left out were untouched. The only thing that she could see was a slight indent on the wood of her door where some pony had been poking at it. Sunny Glade huffed and suspected that the culprit was some late-night prankster or drunk with a mean sense of humor. She decided to make a call to the guard in the morning. But as she had closed the door, the tapping started again. Sunny Glade threw open the door and again was met with nothing. For a few moments, Sunny felt scared. She quickly went back inside and locked the door, and used the chain lock as well. She was sure that whoever was bothering her was a harmless prankster, but she still felt a little safer with the extra lock on. She was a single mare on her own in an unfamiliar town she had just moved into. It would not be uncommon that she might attract the attention of a stallion with an ill intent on her person. She made a firm mental note to call the guard in the morning about this. She went back to sleep soon after, but slept lightly and with her can of pepper spray on her nightstand. The next day, she had called the guards before going to work. Her band was practicing for a concert in a few days, and Sunny had to be ready for it. She couldn't let the events of last night ruin her mood or her skills. When she had returned home that afternoon, she smiled at the sight of two guards doing an extra patrol in her area of the town. She gave the two guards a wave and they to her. Sunny went into her house feeling confident that the tapping would stop. After dinner and a warm romance novel with a particular heated engagement between the two protagonists that left Sunny blushing, she had slipped into her blissful sleep, content that tonight she would finally have peace and quiet. Sunny gasped, her eyes shooting open, and she bolted up in her bed. It was that sound again. Sunny got out of bed and listened, hoping to hear a scuffling or the guards putting the cuffs on whatever sick bastard was tormenting her. That was all she heard again and again. In a sequence of rhythms, Sunny sucked in her breath and slowly made her way downstairs. The tapping noise kept up and seemed to get louder with each step she took. As she drew close to the door, the tapping stopped. Sunny held her breath and waited and waited. She must have waited for several minutes before smiling and figuring that the culprit was finally gone. The sound of a nail or claws raking against her door made Sunny jump and look out at her door. She rushed and threw open the door and once more saw nothing outside. Her eyes slowly looked to her door now, and she felt her heart grow still and a chill run up her spine. 3 long scratch marks drew down her door just under the tapping marks. But worse, as Sunny shined her light on the marks, saw a faint red glow of blood mixed into the wood of her door. She looked outside and saw no sign of the guards. Sunny didn't want to jump to any conclusions. Maybe they were chasing whoever was behind this sick joke. Sunny froze, hearing the scratching noise, this time from the trees not far from her home, leading into the local wildlife park. It was hard to see in the dark, and her flashlight beam did not extend far, but she could hear the scratching. Then the tapping. Sunny quickly slammed the door and locked it. She sucked in her breath and covered her ears. Why? Why would they be doing this to her? She had never done anything wrong to any pony. What reason did they have to do this to her? Was it a sick game? And where were the guards? Was it some sort of animal? Sunny thought bothered her so much that she nearly leapt out of her skin when she heard tapping noises once again at her door. Sunny looked at the door before quickly running upstairs to her room and slamming and locking the door. She threw herself under the covers and threw the pillow over her head. She hoped, prayed that it would muffle the noise. Sunny didn't get any sleep that night. The following day, tired and exhausted, Sunny went down to the guard house, hoping to demand an explanation. When she arrived, she saw that all the guards were busy, and when she came up to the desk, the pony there took her name down to the captain's office. She asked why she was brought down there and wished she hadn't. The 2 guards that had been sent to patrol her neighborhood had been found just outside of town at the edge of the woods. Their bodies were hanging from trees, mutilated, as if something had torn them apart. The autopsy was still in the works, but whatever had killed them must have done it swiftly and instantly. Captain asked her if she knew anything that could help the investigation, though Sunny felt her wonder if she was behind it. She told the captain everything about the past few nights. The captain hummed, rubbing her cheek. "Thank you, that will be all," he had said before letting Sunny leave. Sunny left the guardhouse, feeling disturbed and sick. More so, she felt worried. What had killed the guards? Was it whatever was tapping on her door? Sunny felt a chill later that evening, and she practically ran home after practice and locked all the doors and windows. She held tightly to her bat she had in her closet, wishing she had the bits for a spell gun. But then waited. An hour passed before finally she heard it. Sunny sucked a breath, but slowly tiptoed downstairs to her door. Her brain was telling her to run and hide, but Sunny was sick of running and hiding. She was tired, exhausted, terrified even. If this was some sort of animal, she wanted it gone. She wanted her life back. She wanted peace and quiet. Yet if whatever was outside the door was dangerous, she did not want to go rushing out. So slowly and with held breath, Sunny stood up on her hind legs and peeked through the door's spyglass hole and tried to see if she could catch a glimpse of whatever was out there. What she saw sent a chill up her spine and nearly had her recoil in fright. There, outside of her door, stood a tall, lanky figure. It was shrouded in the night, but Sunny was sure she could make out pale, almost stretched like skin on thin, almost bony-like body. The creature, whatever it was, sat crouched on its long, spindly limbs that folded backwards and front legs acted more like a minotaur's arms and were folded up to allow its long, thin, pointy claws to tap on the wood of the door. Its head was round and oval-shaped, with no sign of ears, and with no hair at all. In fact, the entire creature's body was hairless and had no sign of it. It was male or female, it was just sat there, tapping on her door. Sunny watched with a sense of terror building at the creature. She held her breath, afraid that any movement or breathing would alert it to her presence. The creature went on with this pattern before its head slowly moved to stare up at her door. Sunny fought back a scream as she looked at the oval-shaped head with nothing more than 2 big red eyes, with no distinct irises, no nose, not even a mouth that should be there. The way the creature stared at the door, It was almost as if it was staring at her through the spyglass. Sunny could only stare back. Slowly, the creature then lifted its claws from the door and began tapping on the outside portion of the door's spyglass hole. Sunny screamed, falling back with a thud, and she moved away from the door. It knew she was in there. It knew she had been looking at it. Sunny began to hyperventilate. Rushing into her living room, she grabbed her couch and with the strength she didn't know she had, pushed it against the door to act as a barrier and rushed up back to her room. She did the same with her bed, pushing it against the door. She didn't sleep that night either, only sat in the corner of the room watching the window and the door, listening to the tapping at her door. Sunny began to cry, begging for it to stop, praying to whatever higher power there was to deliver her from this nightmare. The tapping eventually stopped, but Sunny still did not move. She just listened and watched, and she looked to her bedroom door. The sound of the glass being tapped again brought her attention to her window. Sunny screamed again as she saw the silhouette from the long, spindly, claw-like appendage and an oval-shaped head crawling up her house wall and tapping on her window. The creature stared at her, silent and constantly tapping. Sunny screamed and threw herself into the closet. She stayed awake all night, clutching her back tightly. When the sun finally rose that morning, the creature was gone, but it had left deeper marks in her door and scratches on her window. Sunny cried that day. She didn't go to practice. She had to leave. She had to get out, to go get away from this town, get away from that creature. But she couldn't. She had spent so much money on her home. Her savings were low. She doesn't have the bits to buy a new house, much less an apartment in the city. And even if she could sell the house, who would buy it? What did she say about the door and the dead guards was already caused some houses that had once been pending for ponies to move into got back to the market once again. Word of the murders had spread into the news. She was trapped in her house, in this house, this town. And Sunny felt the creature, knew it. For days after, Sunny didn't sleep a wink. Her music practice faltered, and she was cut from the band. Every night, the creature would return and to tap on her door, scratch at it. It never went to the window again, just her door. Still, she had nailed the window covered with a board. Just to be sure, Sunny tried to ignore the sound, but always she could hear it in her head. Like a constant combination it was, haunting her mind and driving her crazy. Sunny felt that she was going to lose her mind when one day she heard something when she had poked outside of her bedroom door to stare down the stairs at her front door. In the dark, she barely made out the slender shape of a claw like appendage, thin and spindly, worming its way through her door. It must have made a hole in her door with its constant poking, and now its fingers could slide into her home. Sunny watched with horror as the claw moved like a snake in multiple jointed points, moving to flick at the lock of her door and push away at the chain. The door slowly sliding open, and the creature crawling in on all fours. Sunny slammed her bedroom door shut, locked it, and threw her bed once more against the door, then her nightstand, and covered herself in her blankets in the corner and hid under them. The sound began again, this time on her bedroom door. It had been about a week now. Sunny is tired, exhausted. Her health is terrible, and she can barely focus now. She hasn't left her house in days, fearful to even leave her room. Even during the day, every night the tapping noise would come back, with scratching in between each tap. Sunny sucked in a breath at the pause of the noise, and a fear gripped her heart as she did it. It unlocked her door. The door opens, bumping against her bed. The creature slams the door against the bed, each time moving it until there's a tiny gap in the door. Sunny watched in horror as the thin creature slowly crawled through the gap, its oval-shaped head squeezing through the gap, and its claws around the bed. Sunny turns and hides herself under the covers, looking away. She can hear it moving. It's right next to her. She can hear its breath. She can can feel its spindly claws dragging themselves across the covers of her body, making slight ripping sounds against the fabric. Then the noise sounds against her wall, just above her head. Sunny begins to cry, not sure what to do. The creature standing just inches from her, tormenting her with that infernal noise, never once stopped. Even as she cried, Sunny couldn't take it anymore. That noise! That noise! That horrible noise! Sunny began to hit her head against the wall, trying to drown out the tapping noise. She kept going all through the night, her head and the creature's claws moving in sync with each other. Sunny stared at the white walls of her new room. The light was bright, but her room was comfy and soft. She tried to move, but found her limbs restrained in her new cot. She couldn't quite remember how she had got here. It was all so very fuzzy. The guards had shown up on her house, apparently alerted by something. They had taken Sunny away from her home and brought her down to this hospital. To doctors, yes, there had been doctors. Apparently she couldn't go home. She was sick, they said. They were very nice, though. They gave her a new jacket to wear all the time and even gave her this lovely room. She was even part of a new community. The ponies were very nice to her and very cheerful. Some would always burst into laughing for no reason. Yes, it was a fine community. And the room. Sunny loved this new room. It was so peaceful, so quiet. And the walls, so very soft, almost like snow. Sunny liked the walls. They didn't hurt her head as much. Slowly, Sunny tilted side to side in her new room, humming to herself a little tune, enjoying a soft press of her walls against her head every few seconds. She thought also she could hear something at the door. So, ghosts and ghoulies, that creature had an insane time with her. So what did you think the creature wanted? Just to drive her bonkers? It obviously wasn't going to kill her. But why did it kill the two guards? What was it that she had that it liked? Did it want her house? Did it want her sanity? Did it just want her? What do you guys think? Leave me a comment and tell me what you think. And if you like this video, like it. It helps me a lot. And subscribe. It'll give me you information when I do a new video. And I try and do at least 2 to 3 a week. So you guys should like it. But this has been Warlock Boo. I hope to be spoken y'all later. Bye. I found you.
No! No!